Jordan Poole went all the way from being called a third Splash brother to becoming an internet meme. Is there a chance that he will revive his career, or is it only a downhill journey from here? Hello again, basketball fans, and welcome back to Hoop Vision. Today, we're discussing the game of once one of the most promising young guys in the NBA and the reasons for his disappointing fall from grace. Let's dive straight into basketball talks. Jordan Poole was drafted by the Golden State Warriors as the 28th pick in the 2019 NBA draft and went on to have a very slow start of his career, averaging only 8.8 points per game and a modest 2 assists and 2 rebounds on 33% from the field. Poole was sent to G League with hopes of improvement, and boy did he improve. Up until their championship season in 21-22, his numbers were only going north. But what really set Jordan Poole apart were games where he wasn't just the sidekick of Clay and Curry. In 8 games of being one of the leading players on the court, Poole went on to average 22 points per game on 47% from the field and 39% from downtown. This period was his initiation to the Warriors as someone they would rely on in the future. Everything seemed to be going well, but destiny had other plans. You probably know about the infamous fight between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, in which Green threw punches towards his teammate and nailed the coffin into what once was their team chemistry. After all, it was all downhill journey for both Poole and the Warriors. It's true they've reached the playoffs and got to the second round, but if things were just a bit different, the Kings would have prevailed in Game 7 and we'd see the Warriors taking a first-round exit for the first time since the 13-14 season when they lost to the Clippers. Poole was unrecognizable compared to the previous championship season, and it was obvious to everyone he wouldn't play well with Green in the long run. They've officially squashed the beef and had one-on-one talks, but the situation on the court said otherwise. The Warriors had a choice to make, and naturally, they went on to keep Draymond and trade Poole to the Wizards. The Washington team had Chris Paul on their roster after trading Bradley Beal to the Suns, so it was a perfect scenario for them to get rid of him for a younger player. It's interesting to imagine if Paul could have helped the Wizards develop a winning culture and mentor some of their upcoming players, just like he did in his short run with the OKC Thunder. However, their eyes were set on Golden State's rejected talent, so the trade went on as planned. Now, it's not like the Warriors got themselves a needle mover. CP3 is no longer the player he once was, and it will take a lot more to become a contender in a stacked Wild West. However, Chris Paul can be a perfect second unit leader, in case he manages not to get into a fight with Draymond, since they're both not famous for being the most peaceful teammates. At the time of making this video, the Warriors hold the 11th seed with a 9-11 record, so it's still to be seen if trading Poole was good for them after all. But there is an open question remaining. What would have happened if the Warriors kept Poole and traded Green away? Just like the fans, Curry and Clay would probably not like it at first, but if Poole showed an increase in numbers and efficiency, it's safe to say everyone would listen to reason and realize it was time to move on and make room for the future. With both Steph and Clay aging, Poole could have been the center figure of their young core alongside Wiggins and Kuminga, provided he went back to his form from their championship season. The biggest mystery is just how much that altercation with Green had to do with Poole's drop in efficiency, since there was an obvious lack of chemistry between him and the Big Three in several occasions. At the end of the day, Curry and Clay are good friends with Draymond, and there's a huge chance they were biased in this scenario, but one cannot go without asking whether Poole was right for calling out Green, calling him an expensive backpack for the Splash Brothers. If he was drafted to a franchise like Detroit, Orlando, or Utah, Draymond wouldn't have been anywhere near the Hall of Fame conversation, let alone 4 rings he has thanks to Curry and Clay. If we're being real, Curry and Clay could win those titles with another all-star player other than Green, but not the other way around. That's one of the arguments for why Golden State might have made a mistake trading for Poole, but again, it's too early to tell into the season. Speaking of Poole, his time in Washington so far hasn't been filled with many highlights. Instead, we've seen plenty of bad in-game decisions and shacked in a fool moments, but made Jordan Poole become one of the most criticized players of this season. Just a couple of months ago, him coming to Washington was talked as an opportunity to prove himself as a leader and reinvent himself within a new environment. But quite the opposite happened, since there were plenty of games where Jordan made us forget the pool party era. However, we can't blame it all on the poor guy. The change of environment must have been a great factor for his bad playing style, since he's no longer surrounded with Curry, Clay, and Coach Kerr. After all, they've been champions for so long, and being around them just cannot be compared to playing alongside Kyle Kuzma and Deni Avdija. We're not taking anything away from them, but going from winning the title to getting traded to one of the worst teams in the league must have played with Jordan's head, at least a bit. Speaking of Kuzma, his trajectory from the Lakers has been similar to Poole's. When he came into the league, Kuzma was seen as one of the pillars of LA's future, alongside Ingram, Randall, and Ball, but failing to meet LeBron's teammate standards came with consequences. He was traded to Washington and has never regained maintained the same momentum. Despite averaging a career-best 23.6 points per game, Kuzma is considered as a non-reliable guy, especially when it comes to big moments. With both Kuzma and Poole, it seems like the problem is mental rather than physical. They're both versatile scorers who do not lack athleticism to play in this league, but their immaturity prevents them from taking their game to the next level. Paul Pierce might have nailed it perfectly when he said that Poole will feel what it's like when all the scouting reports are based around him. Although he had some amazing highlights during his career, he was always sharing the spotlight with Clay and Curry. But now that the dance floor is just for him and Kuzma, the pressure is incomparable, and things are not looking good for either of them. The Wizards are currently 3-16 with just the Pistons being worse than them, and one of those 3 wins was against Detroit, who are an absolute embarrassment this season. Averaging 20+ points per game means nothing when your team can't win a single game in almost a month, and their careers are taking hits every time they make disappointing decisions in clutch time. Becoming a meme while in your prime years is not something that's indicating a good future in the NBA, especially with so many young and hungry guys coming out of college. For guys who are getting paid $27 and $25 million this season, they must approach their game more seriously and work on at least looking composed in the clutch. Nobody is expecting from them to become Luka and Kyrie and score 30 each night, but they can at least make an effort of making better in-game decisions. Shooting low-percentage hero three-pointers or turning the ball over stupidly when the game is on the line is something they shouldn't allow themselves to do, but yet they're managing to present themselves as immature to build around. This season's game against the Nets was an embarrassment for Poole, and if he continues to play like that, well, let's just say we wouldn't recommend it. Now, that doesn't mean everything's lost for Jordan Poole. After this season, both him and Kuzma have 3 more years on their contracts, so unless some team is ready to take either of them and pay them almost $30 million per season, there's a good chance they aren't going anywhere. This could mean developing good team chemistry and friendship by playing alongside each other. After all, Poole has been in Washington for only a short period of time, adjusting to the role he'd never previously had in Golden State. Carrying a franchise for multiple seasons takes a lot, which both of them will have to learn the hard way. Speaking of stats, both Kuzma and Poole have been solid with their numbers, but they'll have to figure out how to make their teammates better. If any luck strikes them, they may land another young prospect that could make them good enough to chase the playoffs. However, if Poole's struggles persist, he might face challenges in securing a spot on a competitive NBA team after this contract is up. In such a scenario, he could potentially be traded to a team looking for trade assets or be picked up as a free agent by a team in need of someone to help their young players. If he continues to disappoint even further, Europe and China are the bottom options, but that would be taking things too far, at least for now. Poole should use this season to find his rhythm, work on himself both as a player and a person to try to reinvent himself because he really needs it. That's it for today, dear friends. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you can think of other ways Jordan Poole could turn things around, make sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. Until next time.